right. Today I am going to continue where I left off with the previous videos. So today it's all about what we call representational systems. Now, NLP mainly works with mental processes rather than content. So what we mean by that is if you work with an athlete or you work with anybody, the content of the issue they have or the problem they experience, whatever the case might be, is not important. You often get people that are so well versed about their own problem, they can analyze the entire problem and they keep on speaking about their own problem, but yet they still have the problem. So because we work with mental processes and the mental coding of information, the content doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what has happened. Great if somebody wants to share that, but we don't need to know that as a coach or if you have athletes. You don't need to know the detail to be able to help an athlete. So now before I go any further, I do want to share my screen and I want to quickly share a slide that just a graphic where I can explain this a little bit better to you. So just be patient so that I can share this. Right. So on the screen, what you will see here is how I'm going to run you through the process. And this is important to know, to understand how we code and process information. I spoke a tiny little bit about this in the previous episode, but this is how it works. And it's like this for anybody, everybody, from baby. So keep this in mind also. Given that a baby's senses already start to develop in the mother's womb, just keep this in mind. And then you will understand why people often say, and scientists would say, do not expose children to certain things. All right. So here is the world around us. We have the world around us. There's a ton of things happening in the world around us every single day. There's a lot of sensory input that comes from the world, a lot of things happening around us. Now, we use that information through our 5 senses, like visually. So we have our 5 primary representational functions that will make sense of the world. So we see certain things, so we make a picture. We make sounds. So if I say we make sounds, remember our brain need to process it and then say, oh, I'm hearing a bird, or I'm hearing a door that was slammed right now in the house. There you go. Or I hear the chair squeaking. So your brain has to process it to know that it is what it is. Generates feelings. We have sense that generate feeling. You can feel on the surface of your skin certain things as well, and smell and taste. So that is what we call our representational system. Now we have numerous sense receptors in our body, on our hands, on our skin, again in our ears, our smell and taste. There is no other way that we can take in information from the world around us other than through these neurological mechanisms. There's no other way we take in information from the world. Now, through your 5 senses, you will gather information from the outside world and you will store it in a specific manner. So it comes in through all of these senses, the 5 senses that you have, and we store it in a particular manner. I'm going to run you through that now. And we call this, so just know that your mind will retrieve the information in the same manner you store it. So if you saw a picture, your mind will retrieve the picture. If you hear and store a noise in your brain, your mind will recall that and retrieve that as a noise. And that is what we call coding of information. Your brain will then use this information to send messages to your nervous system, like, okay, should you run? Should you sweat? Should you do this? Should you breathe more heavily? Whatever the case might be. Now, our thoughts, when we have a specific thought, it will create a specific chemical reaction in your brain, which will then create feelings and emotions. Now, feelings and emotions are not the same thing scientifically. I know in the general population we use it interchangeably, and that is okay. It's not a big deal. But just know the emotions are really the chemical process that happens in your brain, and that will then create a specific feeling in your body. That's maybe when you feel like literally sad in your heart, or you might feel shivers going down your spine, whatever the case might be. Now, feelings and emotions is an important part, because when you have a thought and you attach a meaning to it, you will have that chemical reaction that will be unique for every specific thought. So we talk about a cocktail of chemicals. So you will have a cocktail of chemicals for every thought you've ever thought, for every memory that you have, every experience that you've ever had. And it's really nothing other than a synaptic connection in your brain that fired for that specific thought or experience. And these emotions will then lead to specific choices that you make. Right. So what happens now is then a cycle of short-term thoughts. So you have a thought, you have these feelings and emotions, and you continue to have the short-term cycle of thoughts and feelings. And you're experiencing it over and over and over, and that now becomes your attitude. You would realize that let's say you have an athlete that goes through a tough time, or you just get an athlete with a bad attitude. They didn't have that attitude all along. Something happened, they felt a certain way and had emotions, and then they acted in that moment a certain way. And if they keep on reliving that cycle over a period of time, that now becomes their attitude. And you will hear people say, oh, that person is grumpy all the time. Oh, that person is not friendly, or whatever the case might be. So that's how you pick up or create actually an attitude. Now you have, from your attitude, now you will see the output of that, and that's what people will see also from the outside. Now you will have certain actions, behaviors, or habits. That short-term attitude now becomes something that you display or that you do over a longer period of time. So your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, short-term, it will create an attitude. If you have and relive that over a longer period, it will now create certain actions and behaviors and eventually habits. And if you do them long enough, and then it gets embedded in your daily routine. And that's where habits come from. Sometimes habits are something, an action or a behavior as a result of a feeling and emotion. And you got so used to it that it now is a habit. And what many people try to do is they want to break the habit on the habit level. And that's why for a very small percentage of people, it will work. Let's say a person decides they want to be more disciplined, especially in an athlete's life. They want to be more disciplined, maybe with their eating, or they want to be more disciplined with their sleeping. They want to be more disciplined with their training. They try to do it on a habit level. Whereas you really need to go back to where it all started, with the feelings, the thoughts, the feelings and the emotions, and break the cycle there. Then it's easy to change, right? Have a new attitude and a new behavior, and then a habit. If those actions and habits and behavior continue for long enough, it now becomes your identity. You will then eventually experience a desired outcome or an undesired outcome. It can be good or it can be bad. So when you have an internal representation about something, it will make you feel a certain way. And again, I have to stress the fact that you have to attach meaning to it. That is why sometimes thought can come into your mind and nothing happens. You haven't attached a meaning to that thought. Your brain will store your experiences as a snapshot of the actual experience. So you can think about it as, I just want to quickly stop the share here. Let's speak to you guys. Your brain, hang on, let me just see. So your brain will store that as a snapshot in experience. So you can think about it the same way you would take a photograph. So let's say you go on a summer holiday, you take a few pictures, and eventually when you go afterwards, let's say 2 to 3 months after that, you go through the photographs again and you relive that memory. It's not like you relive the entire experience from in reality, right, from the day you went on holiday, every single moment of the day, but you have a snapshot of certain experiences or of the bigger experience of your summer holiday. And based on that snapshot that you see, you can relive and be in that moment again. It makes you feel a certain way. So you can go out and test this for yourself, actually. I will, in the description below, I will leave a link to an exercise, a mental rehearsal exercise. One of the first exercises I always let my clients do so that they can get accustomed to mental rehearsal and what does that mean and how to do it right. I will leave that below. It's going to take you about 5 to 7 minutes. You can do it sitting down. You can do it laying down before you go to, just don't fall asleep, otherwise you won't experience it, right? But all I'm asking you to do is I'm just taking you through an imaging exercise. In other words, imagine certain things. And then I want you to notice how you actually feel when you think about these things. Remember, and we will speak about this still a lot, remember the same way that you think about something and it makes you feel great inside, it makes you or bad inside, or if you worry about something, even if it hasn't happened yet, it makes you feel, sometimes people literally get depressed because they are worrying maybe they might not win that gold medal, they might not, and even athletes, we see this a lot with athletes putting themselves under a lot of stress and pressure because they worry about what if I don't win that medal, what if, and by thinking those thoughts about something that has not even happened yet, creates a change in their physical state. In other words, they might literally feel nauseous, they might literally not be able to sleep, and that's a physical change, or that's a change in their physical state. The same way, you can create a positive experience and create a change in your state, your physical state, based on a positive experience or a positive thought. And that's really what mental imagery is about. If it's done correctly, it can be super, super powerful, because what happens now is that when you rehearse something, your mind creates those neural synapses, right? And it creates all of those neurochemicals for the emotions and everything that goes with that. And let's say you're a runner and you walk onto so you have these mental imagery exercises that you do about, let's say, running a 400 meters, and you do it properly, you do it right. The moment when you step onto that track, your mind is like, oh, this looks familiar. I know exactly what I need to do. And it kickstarts the whole process up and until where you actually have to action something. So it's a super, super powerful if it's done right. Standing in front of the mirror and just telling yourself, I'm going to win that medal. I'm going to win that medal. I'm going to do it. So since you now have a better understanding on how our brain processes information and what our mind does with it, I want to give you a little bit more detail about the definition of NLP. NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro means, it refers to our nervous system and how it processes and codes information, which I've explained to you now today. Linguistic refers to the neural processes of coding and ordering that information and then giving meaning to it through the language we speak and through communication systems. And then programming refers to our ability to organize these parts with our mind and body. So NLP is really nothing other than taking control of your own mind. So this is the episode number two for today. I'll see you in the next video.